Welcome back to another episode with your host Mitch, presented by Notorious Pulls Radio. And for this week's episode, we're going over UFC Fight Night Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. And this fight is taking place in Singapore. So, guys, remember, set your alarm clocks early. The main event is going to be at 8 in the morning Eastern Time. Another amazing fight that was just recently added to this card is the Georgian standout Giga Chikadze, coming back for over a year and a half layoff from his last fight. But before we get into all the details, guys, if you are new to our show, please leave a like, follow, and subscribe on all social media platforms. Now let's get into it. UFC Fight Night. We have obviously the former featherweight champion in Max Holloway going against the battle-tested Korean Zombie. Even though I'm not a big fan of this matchup, and I think they are throwing in the Korean Zombie as a sacrificial lamb into the lion's den, I'm still going to wake up around 9 o'clock to turn on to watch this fight because I am a die-hard UFC fan. Of course, Max Holloway has every single advantage in this fight. I mean, when it comes to striking, fight IQ, and grappling, he is much, much more well-rounded than the Korean Zombie. The Korean Zombie, of course, he's a great striker. He is a former military soldier for Korea, and he is just a fan favorite. I mean, this guy is a kill or be killed type of fighter. He comes in, he's either going to try to knock you out or you're going to have to knock him out to get him out of the fight. I mean, that's why the UFC constantly brings him back, and he has remained a top 10 fighter in the featherweight division for so many years. Like I said, styles make fights, and Max Holloway is one of the toughest fighters to really break down. I mean, at like 6'1", 145 pounds, with extremely good boxing, great grappling, and a chin that is like made out of granite. I mean, this is one of the hardest guys to put out. I mean, no one has been able to take out Max Holloway other than McGregor, and that was back in the day. I mean, obviously, Max Holloway's track record is nonetheless, I mean, he's absolutely dismantled everyone in the featherweight division, from Arnold Allen to Yair Rodriguez to Calvin Kattar. Unfortunately, he's obviously had 3 losses to the current champion, and that's Alexander Volkanovski, which puts him in a very tough position of like, how do they make a 4th fight? It's very difficult because the fans necessarily don't want to see a 4th fight after someone already lost to the champ 3 times. This fight just makes sense because Holloway is a main event fighter. I don't think he's fought less than 5 rounds for a long time. I mean, he's just that dude. He's that long distance fighter. He can take you into the center of the octagon. He can grind you against the cage. I mean, he has very few weaknesses when it comes to his game. The way I see it happening in Singapore is Max Holloway puts an absolute surgical clinic against the Korean Zombie. The next fight that I want to mention is obviously one of the biggest MMA pioneers for the Georgian people, and that is Giga Chikadze. Giga Chikadze is a phenomenal kickboxer. He has had absolutely an extensive career when it comes to martial arts from his entire childhood to his adulthood. He is a pure class martial artist. The man eats, sleeps, and breathes when it comes to this fight business game. And his opponent is someone I believe is a great tune-up fight for Giga, and that is Alex Caceres, the Karate Kid, aka Bruce Lee Roy. Alex Caceres is, some of you might know, is one of the most durable and most active UFC fighters in history. He has had 28 fights under the promotion's banner. I mean, that is absolutely insane. He's fought 28 times in the UFC. Obviously, he wins some, he loses some, but he is very durable. He has a very nice karate style stand up game, and he's a very, very creative grappler, very long for his division. I like this matchup for Giga. This is good. Someone he can strike with, but also someone who can possibly test him when it comes to coming on the ground. Do I believe Caceres has any chance standing with Giga? Absolutely not. When it comes to the kickboxing, Giga reigns supreme in that category. He has some of the most wicked leg kicks, and he is a massive volume puncher in the division. It's just been tough not seeing him fight for over a year, but he's been one of the most active fighters and supporters in the Georgian community, coming out to support Merab, Roman Dolidze, Guram, Ilya Taporia. I mean, this man is in his country's corner. And shout out to my guys at Fight Hop Podcast, one of the biggest independent MMA Georgian broadcasters in the world. I know they're super excited to have their guy back stepping in. I know it's last minute, but sometimes those last minute signups is just exactly what the fans need. And this fight is going to be that. This is going to be the breakthrough fight that brings Giga back on the map. And I am super excited for that. Guys, remember, this fight, it has a huge potential to be fight of the night because both of these guys can strike and both of these guys are not scared to go to the ground. The next fight that I want to bring up will be actually the co-main event of this card, and that is Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Ryan Spann. These are obviously two top 10 light heavyweights going against each other. Obviously, Lionheart is kind of going towards the end of his career. I think he does phenomenal when it comes to breaking down fights and commentating and working for the UFC. But nonetheless, he's still a very game fighter. Yes, he's coming on a 2-fight losing streak, but he's still very dangerous. Obviously, his opponent, Ryan Spann, is coming off a loss to the very talented Nikita Krylov via triangle submission, but also has slugged it out with some of the best in the light heavyweight division. As some of you may know, Anthony Smith actually already beat Ryan Spann in the past. So somehow the matchmakers found it in between them to run this back one more time. I think when it comes to a career move, this makes sense for both fighters. They're necessarily kind of stuck in their respectful places in the division. A win or a loss for either fighter doesn't necessarily move them around in the standings. This is a kind of a safe fight for both of them because of where they're ranked in their division. How do I see this fight playing out? I am a big Lionheart fan. I believe that Anthony is a little bit more of a technical fighter. He is a very durable fighter, and he will find his way to grind down Ryan Spann. Yes, this will only be a 3-round fight, but I do believe that that plays a big factor for Anthony. He's been in a lot of bigger fights versus Ryan, and when it comes to the bigger fights, he's shown a lot of durability in coming back and recovering from big losses and still putting up monster performances. I do see Anthony coming up victorious this fight, and that's who I'm going to be rooting for. The next fight that I want to go over is the women, and this is a big matchup in the flyweight division. You have third ranked fighter, and that is an Erin Blanchfield, record 11-1, going against Talia Santos, the fourth ranked flyweight in the division. What makes this fight exciting is that both of these women have been on absolute tears. Obviously, you know that Talia Santos is coming off a loss to the former champion Valentina Shevchenko. Prior to that, she was on a 3-fight win streak. Erin Blanchfield is on a 4-fight win streak, absolutely destroying in her last 3 fights via submission. The way she took out J.J. Aldrich via guillotine. She obviously, in Madison Square Garden, put Molly McCann in a beautiful kimura. And the way she took out Jessica Andrade via rear naked choke. I mean, this girl from New Jersey is extremely talented. And there is absolutely no way would I be betting against her. I mean, this is the dark horse in the flyweight division. And I will be absolutely rooting for Erin Blanchfield. Come 9 in the morning from Singapore. I will be up eating cereal, watching this card and watching my kids. So guys, please remember, set your alarm clocks. This is an early fight. You might wake up around 12 o'clock and the show is already done. Before I let you guys go, guys, remember, this fight will be in Singapore. It's going to be early. Main card is at 8 in the morning. And remember, the best way to support our page is to like and follow us on YouTube. If you like the merchandise that you see, you can get it and check it out on notoriouspulls.com. Remember, your host Mitch, and we'll see you soon again.